Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
Welcome back. We're not in our loft again, but we're in the beautiful courtyard.
Yep.
And we have lots
It's only
of
just over
greenery.
there.
It's nearby.
It's not too far away.
But what happens is the church is so fantastic that other people want to use it to rehearse, and choirs go in there.
You can hear some singing going on.
Oh, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today, Dan?
Today we are talking about a new house which we're giving a little overview of. It's the World in Sense. And I bought a sample pack. I actually bought them a while ago. It's a few months ago. I first heard about them through Fragrance Weirdo. Dan, he bought a fragrance, he was talking about them, and I thought that sounds really interesting. I'll go and buy myself a sample pack. And just a couple of things to say about these. We met up with Prin Lomros of Prin Parfums and Strangers, who we're a big fan of, and we had a load of samples, and we were just smelling a load of different things, and he was like, oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It got quite messy, didn't it? We had lots of stuff out on the table.
It got a little bit messy.
And wine and smelling, it was great.
I will say, and he kind of gave me permission to say this, that when we were smelling these, he was impressed.
Yeah, he liked these, didn't he? Didn't like a lot of the other stuff that we were smelling.
No, he didn't. So I mean,
there was a lot of generic
interesting
sort of stuff.
So the owner and director is a guy called Marc Saint-Marie, and when I looked up. When I first heard about it, I looked up this house on Fragrantica, and it said the house was founded in 2013, but there were no fragrances until 2018, which I thought was
interesting.
Which I kind of thought was weird. But then, sorry, there's an ambulance or something. I then looked into the house a little bit, and one of the bits of information it gives about all of the fragrances, that they all have these hearts of a very, very, very high quantity of natural ingredients, which have all been aged for 30 months.
Wow! So already we're getting something quite.
So
deep
we're kind of getting almost like a vintage,
macerating already.
Really massively macerated. Yeah. So which was an interesting starting point.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to go out and say that I really felt, before we're going to talk about them specifically, but I really felt all of these felt like they were very high quality ingredients. They performed very well. They are X-ray, which are $145 for 50 ml, and I've got to say, I think that is good value for the quality you're getting.
Yeah.
And combined with that, I thought they were all very artistically original and interesting.
Which is what we really look for, isn't it? Above anything else, something that has something to say.
Yeah, it's not just. It is. Sometimes you come across like one or two of those, but to come across all three is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't quite remember. My nose was so spent that day.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember all of these that well. So I'm
let's
excited.
get started. All of these have a good story as well. So I've maybe spent a little bit more time with these samples. So I'm going to spray. He also gives these little cards to
That's nice,
to try them on. So I'm going to spray. Then you can sniff, and I'll just talk a little bit. So the first one is Greystone Castle, which is the first one I tried, and it's the one I heard about via Fragrance Weirdo. Greystone Castle.
Greystone.
Here you go.
Let's try it.
So this is. So Mark is based in Princeton, and this is inspired by the grand and mysterious house he visited as a freshman. So this is something he experienced at university, and he goes on to say it's a desire to walk in the footsteps of the successful. So it's when you're at university and you see great and impressive and incredible and possibly intimidating people
like us,
for instance, and you want to feel great and special and significant. I found this really interesting. Yes,
it's good stuff, isn't it?
Two things about this. On one hand, it felt really kind of familiar, and I think there's a kind of a nod to a kind of early 90s fougere kind of thing, but it also feels completely original. I think the big note which dominates through all of it is lemongrass. You get lemon and mandarin. You get lemongrass and mandarin, or kind of like orangey, clementine-y something in the opening.
I get even more of a nod back further to Eau Sauvage in the 60s.
Yeah, I can see that.
That lovely, really well done woodsy citrus.
But so
lemongrass thing is
we're describing a citrusy, almost a cologne kind of fragrance. But I will say also, when I looked into this house, for each of the fragrances, he had these claims of longevity. And I think the one from here was something like 18 hours to 20 hours, which I kind of thought, well, it's funny that he put these claims of longevity.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But they were absolutely true. I mean, I mean, especially this one lasted for forever. And for a kind of a citrus dominant fragrance.
I like that.
It lasted so well.
There's something quite minty as well going on there. It's inspired even by those turn of the century colognes.
It feels bright and it definitely feels like a nod to the past.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I actually
on.
have smelt anything like this.
No, it feels maybe slightly more gently resinous somehow.
A little bit. I think it's just as opposed to being lemon or lemon verbena, it's this lemongrass.
Yeah.
Which is just it's just slightly different.
And it has a slightly sweeter, rounder effect as a result.
Yeah.
There's no sourness in it.
And also, but it's really, I really enjoyed it when I wore it, because there's a woodiness which kind of reveals itself more and more, and especially vetiver. I found the vetiver, as well as the lemongrass, which you kind of get throughout, it was vetiver which started to come through and then really became quite prominent and became quite nutty.
Yeah, I can imagine that doing really well on skin, actually. Really warming up. The nuttiness is interesting. I can see that it could go in that direction. Then maybe that's the vetiver as well. That's that that slight salty aspect that you might get.
But yeah, I just found it interesting because on one hand it felt incredibly familiar. On the other hand, I've not smelled anything quite like it.
Well, it's like a familiar tune done by a really fantastic orchestra.
Exactly, yeah.
Where the quality of everything just shines through even more.
So that was Greystone Castle. That was the first one.
So I mean, already I can think of a lot of people that would love that. That are not necessarily into their big funky animalics and things, but want a really well done.
That's the thing. It's a fragrance which lasts all day. It's a fragrance which feels, on one hand, fresh and formal, but smells creative and original and unique.
Great.
Win. Double thumbs.
We like that.
Right. The next one is Mediterra. Again, if I spray
me down.
Look at the colour of that.
That's nice, isn't it?
I mean, this has completely discoloured the paper. Here you go. So this now this is inspired by his holidays on the Amalfi Coast. Which, if I say that, when I read that, I thought, oh God, does there have to be another fragrance inspired by the Amalfi Coast? But
hey, I like that.
I mean, I found this incredibly interesting. So, as you would imagine from something about the Amalfi Coast, you get this. There are citruses, but it's got yuzu in it, which I wouldn't necessarily associate with the Amalfi Coast.
I get the yuzu straight away.
And I've really been looking for yuzu fragrance phrases. I mean, the Caron's a good example.
Yeah. Isimiaki as well.
Yeah, and
nice stuff.
And some of those, but I think I've kind of found with those that they were lacking in performance and quality a little bit. Now this also has something else in it, which I had to look on the notes list, and I think it may be the mastic, which gives it. There's a slightly resinous quality, almost
absolutely,
like almost like albus oil. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like almost like it doesn't smell incensey. I don't think it is, but like almost like olibanum, that kind of resinous quality.
It's got a gentle sort of stickiness about it.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
Almost a tiny bit medicinal. But it just kind of steers it away from the being purely citrusy.
It's very natural as well. I can imagine going out into a jungle and finding a leaf and squeezing it and some sort of sap.
Yeah, it smells oily, kind of sappy bit. And that's what you get with the yuzu as well. I really feel someone's just like pressed the rind and the oil has come out as opposed to the flesh. It's really oily.
But then it doesn't get too bitter either. Something that realistic could veer into the very bitter orange sort of territory.
And I've also got to say, we are describing in a way a brighter, more citrusy fragrance than the previous one, and yet for me this lasted for hours and hours and hours.
I can imagine this having more legs.
It's incredibly beautiful, incredibly natural. If you told me it was made by Parfum and Roma, I would believe you in a heartbeat, because I feel that it's got that kind of feel of very natural, very, very, very high performing, really, really high quality.
There's a gentle smokiness coming through as well.
There's just that slight
or bacon
resinous.
or something.
Yeah,
is that weird? But like just a slightly smoked pancetta-y aspect. I mean, it's not pancetta, but
I don't know if there's maybe a bit of ambergris or something like that. Maybe a little bit of saltiness. But so many of these,
there's a salty, warm.
So many of these Amalfi-inspired fragrances, aim to be citrus groves by the sea breeze.
Yeah, that's been done before to death.
But whereas this, again, you read the description, you read the notes, and you have an idea in your head, but the fragrance feels completely original.
This, interestingly, is a smell I'd like to wear, but I'd also like a room to smell like.
Yeah.
If I walked into a room somewhere.
I'd like to just be.
It feels lived in as well.
Yeah.
Gently animalic, I'd say, even.
Just a little bit.
There's something in there.
There's a bit of interest. Right.
Very good. I'm liking this house so far, I have to say.
Let's move on to Symbios. And let's give it a little spray.
Symbios.
Symbios.
I'm doing some big stuff there.
This is one of a few which is inspired by walking through a forest. He gives much longer descriptions. I'm really kind of like cutting them short.
I'm getting
really
a sort of earthy, patchouli blonde tobacco, Caron tobacco blonde
100%
type thing.
100%, yeah. Yeah.
Earthy and delicious.
There's also, I don't know.
Could be gourmand, but isn't.
Yeah, but definitely blonde tobacco.
Yeah.
And also I get a bit of lavender as well.
Yeah, there's a little bracing fresh lavender at the top.
There's a nod to that kind of like barbershop food there, but it's not. It's definitely about the tobacco.
There's an opening in that I've come to recognise in a few things, and I like it a lot because it's fresh, but it's not bracingly fresh. It's sort of immediately earthy and a little.
But
bit
it's balanced with lots of heavy things, like as you say, straight away you get patchouli. You get patchouli and tobacco, which are normally they're kind of base notes. They're things which round it off, but you get them straight away.
Yeah. But very, very sort of gentle as well. It's very elegantly done. It doesn't shout.
It's incredibly comforting, and I like to think that he says it's like a hike.
Bless you.
And I really feel that when you spray this, you feel like you've been surrounded by things.
Yeah.
Surrounded by plants, and rather than experiencing necessarily one after the other, you just feel engulfed by this.
Yeah, it wraps you in a cocoon, doesn't it? It's very nice.
Whereas the other two are both bright and uplifting.
Yeah.
This feels quite embracing. And as it developed a little, I started to get some kind of florals, which just kind of again lightened up and gave it even more interest to the mid.
I can imagine. I mean, all of these. I think all scents in general, but I can imagine this really opening up on skin beautifully.
Yeah, it really did. And again, even though this isn't a big punchy scent, it lasted all day or as long as you possibly want. Really, like one of the
name is interesting, isn't it? I mean, are we talking about like interweaving and symbiosis?
I don't.
One note melds into the other, and they just
possibly, yeah.
There are no rough edges from what I can smell here. I like this a lot.
Smell that again.
This is my favourite so far. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Much more herbaceous now that it's been left there for a while. I mean, it fits in perfectly with all the shrubbery behind us.
And you're starting to get the vetiver in the Greystone Castle as well.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, now the Greystone Castle is moving a little bit closer towards the Mediterra. You can see the sort of DNA.
Right.
And that symbiosis.
We've got 3 more.
Beautiful. What do we got next?
So the next one is, if I got the right one, peas.
Peas, man.
Here we go.
Not peas.
No. Again, look at that colour.
That should be a good fragrance.
I'm just going to say, like, whenever I sprayed this, I don't know if you can see it there, but the colour of the paper has really changed, which is, testament. There's a lot of high quality.
This ain't no empty water.
So this is a camping trip in Hawaii in which he visited a lush green forest, and he also went to a hippie shop.
Yeah. Now I
found this really.
That's the most interesting so far for me.
I mean, Cannabis.
Yeah.
Cannabis. Yeah, I mean,
This
really,
is straight out of
weed.
Glastonbury
Yeah.
in the 60s or something.
And again, that is a note which has been done a lot, but it's so rare to encounter it as so natural.
And also blended with other things. Very often you smell like the smell that you get walking past certain doorsteps at night that you recognise. But
there's something
more
else.
to this.
I don't know if you get it now or if you're not.
Sweet violet or something.
But I've just bought one of my favourite smell memories in the world is both my grandmas, in fact, were quite big gardeners, and they used to have greenhouses. And the big thing which used to grow in the greenhouse, especially in the spring, was tomato plants.
Yeah.
And the smell of tomato plants, especially the vines, more than the tomatoes,
that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's one of the most amazing smells. And tomato plant is a smell which has cropped up a few times, but I get it in this, and it's one of the best versions of it at all. And the combination of the cannabis with the tomato plant is one of the most.
That's very beautiful.
Extraordinary, vivid, immediate green things. It's just absolutely incredible.
That's also for me an all year round sort of fragrance. I can warm myself with that, but I can also find that quite bracing.
Yeah, because there's an edginess to it.
Smell that. Very good. I have to say, it's like you'll find this is a really weird thing to say. Reminds me a little bit of my grandmother as well, because we used to dig everything in her garden. Potatoes, she had strawberries, she had tomatoes planted, and it was all there. And that's the smell that when you bury your nose in those vines.
It's the vines, isn't it? It's the greenery, it's the bits you kind of throw away rather than the fruit or the vegetables.
The tomatoes
themselves.
often don't taste of anything.
Yeah.
Sadly, but that's very beautiful.
That's amazing. And then
you don't smell that very often on a man or a woman, do you?
And as it developed, I also started to then get bits of iris.
Okay.
Iris and a bit of rose as well. So it became this really quite complex, but I say it's complex, but it doesn't feel messy.
I can see what you mean with the iris. I get more sort of celery, carrot seed.
Yeah, definitely celery. Yeah, carrot seed. Yeah, completely agree with you.
Which will probably be an iris, won't it, of some sort? This is really good stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Not one of these so far has been a dud for me, I have to say.
Next one.
I'm not expecting them to be.
Is Gravity. Here we go.
So is this got a smell of...
Defying Gravity from Wicked.
Yeah.
So this is inspired by visits to a barber shop, a football game, and a local market.
Not necessarily in that order.
I mean, they're quite different things.
First thing I get is a brand new carpet shop, which is bizarre, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of very
It's not. It's almost like a non-perfume, isn't it?
I don't know if this is, and I remember reading notes. I think there is Cypril in this.
Okay.
Which is a note which, when I sometimes read it, I get boot polish. And I think that's what when you say carpet shop, I kind of think boot polish.
Like products and things.
Yeah. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a really oily citrus, and I don't know if it's the oily citrus which is giving that real oily effect combined with the. So I'm not sure if the football match thing is supposed to be like football boots which have been like polished.
Do you know? I find that quite a hard one to decipher. I'm getting also a bit of vintage Guerlain again.
Yeah, I'm now getting that. I'm getting barbershop fougere starting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm finding it hard to sort of to meld all the elements together. Maybe a bit of that clean medicinal thing of a barbershop that dips the razors in that weird blue donkey jelly that cleans them. Do you get a little bit of vintage Guerlain there? A little bit of Jiki or Mitsuko, something?
Yeah, well, no, I think I do. That kind of fougere feel.
Yeah.
That lavendery fougere feel and there's a feeling of funk as well.
I think this could be the dark horse in this group because my immediate impact is not. It's not that I dislike it, but my immediate impact is
what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I can't. But it makes me want to wear it even more though, to sort of decipher it.
It feels you know, actually, as the
brooding,
introduction suggested, it feels like the combination of 3 different things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so maybe it's a long journey sort of
it
fragrance.
doesn't feel like they're. Yeah, I get a real kind of almost that lavender's almost gone like a tiny bit sweet and round and honeyed. I did find when I wore this, I did find the fougere aspect, the kind of lavendery aspect, was quite prominent. But then towards the end, I found the cypriol kind of combined with the woodiness.
This is definitely one for wearing on skin, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can see that's going to take you on a journey. I like it. It feels almost like a 100-year-old perfume.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
It's very clever, yeah.
Okay.
And I know what you mean about the boot polish now as well. I'm getting that slight suede-y cleaner.
So talking of boot polish, this is another one.
Was that one there?
Is Stratix.
Stratix.
This is another one which was inspired by a hike, by a walk. This one is actually inspired by the. Okay, look at the colour. By the hiking boots, by the walking boots, which is weird because.
Oh no, I get it much more in that. Yeah.
But I also feel.
And Parma violets as well.
I feel that I think there's definitely
there's some Parma violet or something going on there. A little bit of love heart action, maybe.
And also oud as well.
Yeah, it's that quite clean medicinal oud.
Yeah. This was a really it's really interesting. But there's something about it which gives a bit of an old school feel, which kind of comes in waves, and it isn't lavender. I almost wonder if it's oak moss and carnation or something like that, which gives that old school, you know, that gentleman's floral kind of feel. Gentleman's floral.
Yeah. There's a little nod to the past there, and the sort of classics like Knees 10. It doesn't smell the same, but the sort of the way there are these very gentle florals going on, or something there that.
But also, like, if you're listening to what we are saying, you could be forgiven by thinking it's a bit chaotic. It doesn't It doesn't feel chaotic. It feels incredibly beautifully blended.
It could make your own mind a bit chaotic in terms of trying to decipher things, but the fragrance isn't chaotic.
You definitely get the oud to that, don't you?
Yeah.
But there is oud, but it doesn't feel like an oud fragrance at all.
Gently uplifting barnyard.
Because you normally think oud comes with rose and creates this kind of big, rich oriental, whereas this is not that at all.
No, it's very much it's still very much in that clean barbershop aspect for me.
Weirdly, I still get the impression
really interesting.
I don't know, I get with Gravity, I get more of the sense of boot polish.
Yeah. Gravity reminds me a lot of being a chorister because we had to shine our shoes all the time.
Yeah.
And so that was one overriding memory, and you had to see your face in the reflection.
Yeah.
I really like that, and I have to say, Stratix is more and more enticing. They're quite addictive, actually. You have to keep going back and
they are so, like when I tested these. Right, let's go back through them.
Yeah, see how they're developing.
They've got such personality, and they all, as I said at the beginning, they all perform so well. So this is Greystone Castle. Get that lemongrass and oranginess. But do you see what
that's gone more into the direction of the next one now.
But do you see what it kind of feels familiar? Yeah. And like what you're not getting at this stage is that vetiver, like which you do get in the long term, which goes to a really nutty vetiver.
They had some verbena as well, which is really nice.
Yep. It's got Tripton. It's fine. Carry on.
It's a little tree juice. I think that's gorgeous. What do we have next?
This is Mediterra.
Mediterra.
I think that is so uplifting, that user. It's so it's so happy making it, and for me there are so many fragrances which try to do what this does.
Yeah, that's properly herbaceous and voluptuous.
Yeah, and as I said, for me it lasted 8-10 hours really, really well.
That's the kind of thing, if you threw that card in your beef bourguignon and left it for 24 hours, you'd have the most incredible dish, wouldn't you? Beautiful, really beautiful. And they're actually getting bigger. They're not dwindling away.
Oh god! Oh no!
They're growing.
They really they really come to life again. Symbios, which is this. Actually, in the context, and I did find this when I wore it. This is one of the slightly more moderate in terms of sillage, but it's a really beautiful, really elegant, comforting, hugging white tobacco.
This is, for me, this is a kind of bathrobe in a nice hotel.
Yeah, I think there's also a little bit of rose in that, which just adds to that kind of sensual quality. It's definitely the most sensual.
Yeah, it's a skin scent in the proper sense of the word.
But one for tobacco lovers.
Yeah.
So the next one is this piece, which is kind of extraordinary. It's just the most extreme green thing. It's basically at this start you pretty much just get cannabis and tomato vine.
I get some slightly sour peppermint leaves as well now.
It's just all manner of greenness. It's almost like a smoothie. Like the green is so vivid and immediate.
A smoothie that's not been touched by Robinsons or one of these big giants.
No,
it's the real stuff.
All
just put it in a blender.
And I did feel as it developed, it softened, and you got some florals. But
I like that. Very photorealistic.
Yeah, amazing. Next,
these two were for me the most
Gravity.
Curiously interesting, I think.
That's it's. So this is the one which is a barbershop, football game, and market.
I don't get the correlation between the things. I have to say. Barbershop, yes.
Yeah.
Football game just smells of pies and sweat.
But maybe he's thinking of the boot polisher.
Maybe he's actually played football, unlike me, who's just watched it. Yeah, quite. Actually, the more I smell it, the more I get a very classical thing.
Yeah.
I get a very classical, well put together.
This is kind of lavender centric.
Nod to the past. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting
how that's
from
changed.
A house where this is the first releases, from someone who is a self-taught perfumer, that there's a real sense of kind of harmony.
Yeah, he's obviously taken time and done them properly.
In fragrances.
And then Stratix.
See, if I kind of don't completely engage, if I just smell this at a distance, I also get a suggestion. So this is the one which is supposed to smell like hiking boots. I also get something which feels kind of familiar. And that's what I feel about a lot of these. Something feels familiar, but they all feel like a take on the familiar.
Yeah.
So that none of these are batshit crazy. But yet they manage to be completely original, which is amazing, I think.
This feels a little bit like a more gentle, muted cousin of something like Oud Palau by Diptyque. If they suddenly had their budget slashed.
I think there are more things going on in this.
Yeah, no, totally. But I mean, not if they had their budget slashed. I didn't mean it that way. But if they had their hands tied, and they were told, actually, no, we want something that has a nod to this.
Yeah.
But something that takes us in a different direction.
Yeah.
Because I still get the Oud Rose slight barnyard. Aspect there.
So,
which I like a lot.
If you were going to buy one of these, which would you buy?
I'd probably buy all of them. I have to buy the one that intrigues me the most, which is Gravity, which I can't get my head around, and I think I need a bottle, and I need to wear it.
So I told you before.
But I would buy any of these.
Before this, I told you I have bought one.
Oh, yes.
I was hoping it's going to arrive, but it hasn't yet arrived. It's going to arrive soon. Which one do you think I bought? Bearing in mind what I've got, and you think, if I've got a niche to kind of fill or something.
I would have said still with these, you might have gone for Mediterra. What's it called? Mediterra. But I don't think you did.
I did.
You did?
I did.
You did, yeah.
Yeah,
I get the sense you would have gone for that.
I bought Mediterra. I just because I've never I said to you, and I've said on camera.
Yeah, there's not a lot you can smell that's like that.
I really struggle to find citrus which I get on with, but I found this is so high quality, and yuzu in particular, and it lasted all day, and on a steaming, stonking hot day, I think it'd be
really good, isn't it?
So
I'm so glad that our tastes are so well aligned.
Yeah.
That I know that you would have got that. Yeah, I mean, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful, and not a hint of boring, like cleaner product citrus that you hate.
Beautiful. So I mean,
really well done.
I just got to say, so for me, I've got to say, looking at the house, looking at these 6 fragrances for a first 6 fragrances release, you've got really high quality ingredients, which I think are good value for money, fantastic performance, but heaps of artistic integrity and originality.
Yeah, they all have something to say, and I love the combination of having something to say but having a respect of the past and where perfume has come from, and this clearly hovers
still a sense of kind of construction and things.
But it's not hodgepodge at all. I mean, please keep making stuff and keep us updated.
The other thing I want to say, when I bought the sample set of this, I posted on Instagram and said, look, I bought the sample set, and I said, what is your favourite from this house that people have tried it? And every single person said something different. Yeah. Which is a real
that says a lot,
as opposed to
Aventus!
Exactly. As opposed to Creed, whenever I go, oh my god, Aventus. The fact that everybody has a different one shows that this is full of personality and that there is quality and consistency across the board.
That's what people need, and that's what people love.
So go and check them out.
Yeah. I'm going to be buying Gravity.
Do it.
I think that's going to be a hit for me.
And my Mediterra will come soon. But until
we should maybe do a video on that when it comes, and like when you wear a full bottle for a few weeks. And live with it. Well, you have already.
So if you've tried them, tell us. If you haven't tried them, go out and try them.
Yeah.
And until next time, happy sniffing. Bye.